All right, this is section 10.2. So we're dealing with the mathematics with money. And we're going to talk about simple interest. So I don't know why the heck that says percent. This should say simple interest. Your notes probably reflect that, but on mine they don't. So this should be called simple interest. Okay, so we talked about percents, decimals, and fractions. So we're going to use all the information that we learned from 10.1 in this section. So the formula for simple interest is I equals PRT. I stands for the interest earned. P stands for the principal. And the principal is going to be the initial amount either borrowed or given. So that's what the principal is. The rate is R, and the rate is always given in percent. So when we work with this formula, however, we have to change percent to decimal to work with the formula. All right, and T equals time. So time has to be given in years. So if it's not in years, you have to equate it as such. So once again, very important, time is in years. So let's see what happens when the time is given in months. So the first example, it says equate 7 months to a year. Okay, there are 12 months in a year. So what we have to do with this is we have to rewrite 7 months as 7 over 12 to use it. Equate 3 months to a year. 3 over 12, which reduces down to 1/4. And 2 months to a year. 2 over 12 reduces down to 1/6. Okay? When you have to equate months to years for the time, you can also change this into a decimal because remember, we're going to have to multiply things together. So you can change, for instance, 1/4 into 0.25. Okay? If you do that, you have to be exact. So if it's something weird like 0.573425 blah, 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 you have to use all of those numbers. All right, now let's look at what we have to do when we have to change time to days. So the weird thing is we know that there's 365 days in a year. However, on my math lab and most financial institutions, they use the definition as 1 year being 360 days. So be careful with this one. So the first example says to equate 153 days to a year. So I'm going to take 153 and I'm going to divide that by 360. And like I said, you can divide those two on your calculator and get a decimal value, that's fine. Equate 40 days to a year. So I have 40 over 360. I'm going to reduce that down to 40 over 36, which reduces down to 1 over 9. Equate 280 days to a year. 280 over 360. And by the way, you can use this value here if you don't want to reduce it down. It's okay. I just do it because I think the numbers are easier. But this would reduce down to 28 over 36, which further reduces to 7 over 9. Because if I divide 28 by 4, I get 7. And if I divide 36 by 4, I get 9. All right, so let's go ahead and do a problem. Given the following information, find the simple interest. Okay, so this question saying simple interest, if it says simple interest, then I know I have to use the formula I equals PRT, or what I call IPERT. Okay, you have to memorize that, by the way. So I'm going to go ahead and put I equals PRT. And I'm looking for interest. So I is going to be the unknown. The principal is 465, so I plug that in. The rate is 2.75%. Remember I said you have to change this to decimal. So the decimal equivalent, remember, we're going from P to D, 2 places to the left, is 0.0275. Okay, so I took the decimal 2 places over to the left to get that. And then my time is in years, so I'm okay because it's 1.25. Okay, so now I have I equals 465 times 0.0275 times 1.25. So if I multiply that together, on my calculator I got 15.984. And I reduced this down to 3 decimal places after the decimal. And the reason why I did that is because when you're dealing with money, you're going to round to the hundredths place. Okay, so the hundredths place is 2 decimal places after the decimal. So if I look at the 8, I look at the 4 behind it. 4 is less than 5, so I keep the value alone. So my interest is going to be 15.98. And I'm talking about money, so I need the dollar sign. So that's how much money this person made by putting $465 in the bank, if it's simple interest that is, at the rate of 2.75 for 1.25 years. All right, let's look at this next example. Given the following information, find the simple interest. P equals $2,756.78. The rate is 10.15. And the time is 103 days. So I'm going to go ahead and change the rate so it's a decimal. So 2 places to the left. So 0.1015. Remember, percent going to decimal. Okay? And time has to be equated as well because I'm in days, not years. So to equate the time, I'm going to put 103 over 360. Now I'm ready to go. The question says find the simple interest. So right away, I think of the simple interest formula, which is I equals PRT. And I'm going to go ahead and plug in values. So I equals PRT. I equals the principal, which is $2,756.78 times the rate, which is 0.1015, times the time, which is 103 over 360. Okay, when plugging this into your calculator, you are going to do the division first. Take 103 divided by 360, get that value, and then multiply it by 2756.78 times 0.1015. When you do that, and I'm going to make a little note, do first, because I told you to do the division first. For this example, I get 80.057. Once again, I'm leaving it 3 decimal places after the decimal because I want to round to the hundredths place. In the hundredths place is a 5. I notice the number behind it is a 7, which is bigger than 5, so I need to round up. So the interest is $80.06. All right, let's do the next one. Given the following information, find the principal of the simple interest. Once again, simple interest, I know I have to use this formula, IPERT, I equals PRT. Whoops. So once again, I equals PRT. Okay, so I'm going to write that down, I equals PRT. So let's see what we got. We don't know the principal. We do know the rate is 2%. So once again, change percent to decimal. I have to go 2 places to the left. So that's 0.02. And I'm in days. So I'm going to rewrite this as 90 over 360. Reducing it down, I get 9 over 36. 9 goes into both of those, so I get 1/4. Okay? So now I'm going to plug and chug. Interest is $12.50. Principal unknown, so I leave that as P. The rate is 0.02, and the time is 1/4. So once again, do the division first. So 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. So I'm going to take 0.25 times 0.02, and then I'm going to write out what that value is. Okay? So 0.02 times 0.25 gives me 0.005 times P, and it equals 1250. Now, multiplication is commutative, so I can rewrite this just so it's familiar, it looks like an algebra problem, as 0.005 P. Now I have to isolate P, meaning I got to get P by itself, okay? So to isolate P, P is currently being multiplied by 0.005. I have to do the opposite operation to move 0.005 over to the other side. The opposite operation is division, because remember 0.005 was multiplied by P. So I'm going to divide off 0.005 on both sides. And when I do that, I get 12 divided by 0.005, which equals 2,500. So 2,500. And 0.005 over 0.005 is 1. So I'm left with just P. So the principal, given these parameters, is 2,500. Okay. So the next example says P equals 1,500, the rate's unknown, the time is 4 years, and the interest is $336. So once again, the directions say find simple interest. So right away, what do I think? I equals PRT, IPERT. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down, and then I'm going to fill it out. The interest is $336. The principal is $1,500. The rate's unknown, and the time is 4 years, okay? This time around, I didn't have to convert the time because it's given in years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply, or actually, let's rearrange the problem. So 336 equals 1,500 times 4 times R, okay? So I can rearrange this order because multiplication is commutative. So 1,500 times 4 gives me 6,000. And now I just have to isolate R. Okay, so currently the problem says 336 equals 6,000 R. So 6,000 is multiplied by R. To get R by itself, I have to divide off the 6,000. So I get 336 divided by 6,000, and when I do that in my calculator, I get 0.056. 6,000 over 6,000 is 1, so I'm left with R on this side. But I am not done. Rate has to be in percent, okay? So I have to change that decimal I just got to percent. So I move the decimal place 2 places to the right. So when I do that, I get 5.6%. That is the rate. So rate equals 5.6%. So be careful if you are asked to find rate. Remember, you have to change that into percent. Okay, so last question. Karen borrows $3,500 from a bank for 6 months. The bank collects 7.5 simple interest on the date of maturity. Part A, how much did Karen pay for the use of the money? Part B, determine the amount she repaid to the bank on the due date of the note. Okay, so for part A, they're telling us that, we're using simple interest. So we know we have to use the formula I equals PRT. So I'm going to go ahead and put the formula down. We also have to know what the variables are. Karen borrowed $3,500. That $3,500 is the principal, because remember the principal is the initial amount you borrowed or the initial amount you are given or loaning, right? Now it says 6 months. 6 months is going to be our time. But remember, I can't leave it in months. I have to rewrite it in terms of years. So this equals 6 over 12, which is 1/2. The decimal equivalent to that is 0.5. And then the rate is given to us as 7.5%. Okay, this is kind of like a problem that we had in 10.1. We have to change that 1/2 to a decimal and then change it, the whole thing to a decimal. So 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. So this is actually 7.5%, but we have to change this to a decimal, okay? So I have to change it to a decimal. Remember, I'm starting in percent. To go to decimal, I take it 2 places to the left. So I get 0.075 is the value for rate, okay? Now I'm ready to plug and chug. So interest equals 3,500 times that rate, 0.075, times the time, which is 0.5. And then I do the problem. So I'm going to multiply the value of 3,500 times 0.075 times 0.5 in the calculator. And when I do that, I get $131.25. Okay, that one came out perfect, so I didn't have to round anything. All right, so that's the interest that she has to pay to borrow $3,500 from the bank for 6 months at 7.5% interest. So part B asks us to determine the amount she repaid to the bank on the due date. So the amount that she has to repay is she has to pay the principal, which is the amount she borrowed, plus the interest. Okay? So let's figure that out. What is the principal? The principal is $3,500. The interest we just found from part A, which is $131.25. If I add those together, I get $3,631.25. So for letting the bank let her borrow money, she's not just borrowing the $3,500, she's borrowing $3,631.25. So she has to pay $131.25 for the ability to borrow that money. Okay, and that's the end of 10.2.